I had one woman who called me at 56 years old. She goes, Julie, I'm retiring this year. I'm like, really? How's that? She goes, well, you're going to tell me how much I need to make per year. And I'm going to go find a job that just makes me laugh all day long. We figured out she needed $27,000 a year between now and 65.
Mm-hmm.
And she owns a dog walking business now, and she kennels dogs, and she loves dogs. I would never in a million years do that. Hey, Julie Murphy here, and I am here with my friend Meg because she is a life that is thriving these days. And what I've come to realize that when people are thriving and when people share their stories, what happens is that allows you and almost gives other people permission to do the same. So, Meg, I appreciate your vulnerability today.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Just throwing it out there. What are we going to do?
Right. Well, and Meg and I, we've actually worked together, I think 27 out of the 28 years of me being a financial planner.
Yes. Yeah. It was
Crazy.
sometime in the late 90s.
Are we that old?
Ago. No. we were like 15, I think.
I know.
Yes, you were a child prodigy in the financial world, and I was, whatever I was. But yeah, no, it's been, over 25 years.
Been a road. Yeah, It's so fun. And so one of the things that I wanted to share with people is that I witness many, many women who are successful, but they're not happy. Like on the outside of their worlds, they got their shit together. Like people look up to people like you, Meg, right? Like, oh my God, she's done it. She's worked hard. She's like blocked and tackled and did it. And she's like successful. And you're kind of going, eh.
Yeah.
And it's not that you did exactly that, but it's like you ponder kind of going, is there more? Or what else is there? And what's going to make you happier? And I love the quote that your husband said to you. And if you feel comfortable to share, please do. But
absolutely.
But can you share with the audience in terms of like you for a while you're a hard worker. You've worked more than the 40 hours a week. You've done all these things, and financially you're building your base. You're doing it. And now you're doing it a little differently. So I'd love for us to talk about that.
Yeah. No, well, I have worked for, that's probably my 30th year of working, mostly in, I always say creative adjacent positions. I'm an operations person. I've worked at agencies and with in-house, marketing and advertising agencies. And for many years, I was the VP of production at a magazine publishing company. Really helped them grow a great deal, was there for 11 years. Near the end, it was just I was not a terribly pleasant person to be around, probably for both my colleagues and my, family and friends. And we were on the phone with my husband and I with Julie one day, and she's like, how's work? And I'm like, it's not good. It's bad. And you had like a young guy in there with you. You wanted him to see, how a financial thing works. And you go, well, how much money do you really need every month? And so we start doing the math. We're figuring out how much, medium-term savings we have. And you say, well, you just quit. You could be unemployed for like,
you're like, huh?
And I said to the kid, I'm like, this is not normally how this goes. Where the financial advisor says, leave your 6-figure job, it will be fine. But really, it was you, and I have to give credit to my husband, James, who said, it's not like you're going to be unemployed forever. Just, take a break. And I did, and it was delightful. And I actually I took 3 months off. I worked part-time for a friend of mine, just a little bit during there. Right. Got another full-time job. I've had 2 full-time jobs since then. And then I left my last company at the end of 2021. I actually got laid off. And I fully intended to find another job. I had the gift of severance so I could figure out what it was. And like 3 weeks ago, I said to my husband, there's a Freudian slip for you. I
But I think many women think that that's reality.
Let's step back and say that is not the way this works in my house. And he would agree with that fully. It's very much partnership. And I said to him, I think I just want to freelance and do some consulting, but we should, are you comfortable with that? The money will be up and down and all those things. And his words to me were, honey, you might be less crabby if you didn't have a boss anymore. So
that's the phrase I loved.
Yes. In James's infinite wisdom, and I'm lucky that I have supportive husband who has good health insurance. I am lucky that I have had a long career where I have worked with lots of different people. I literally, was already doing just some regular kind of full-time project management freelance.
Right.
I have a bunch of people. I literally just put on LinkedIn yesterday that I'm not finding another job. I'm going to do this. I have 2 meetings and I have 2 more phone calls from people who've said, oh, good, I need you. Let's talk. So we'll see. I don't know if it'll be forever, but I think that in the words of our mutual friend Sharon, I need rails in my life. I work too much always. And so I think that by doing it just for me and being able to choose the projects that I take and to do the work that really is important to me and that I think I can really help others with is what I want to do. So we'll see, but feeling good about it today.
Yeah. And what I find is that there's a couple buzzwords that you said that I wrote down. I find that so many women have spent so much time working super hard. Yeah. Right? Like, Meg, you're just a hard worker. Like, you're the person everybody depends on. Right? And I know a lot of women feel like that out there too. You talk to our girlfriends, and to where, and Sharon, bless her heart, holds really good boundaries from that perspective.
Yep.
But I would say most women don't.
No.
Most women don't. And I would say it's because we've ignored our heart along the way of what our desires are. So from an outsider's viewpoint and me looking at when you took that break, when you gave yourself permission to choose your self-love and self-care, you felt something that you probably never felt before. And it was like, this feels kind of good. And I'm not really sure what to do with that because I've been programmed like this and I'm doing this. And I'm like, right? Is that true?
It feels irresponsible. Like, well, and it's not. I mean, I'm working all the time, and I'm still doing it. But I think that we're trained to, and I think you're absolutely right that for women, and I do not have children.
Right.
So what I'm about to say is like exponentially more true for people that have that in your life, but we want to do everything. And there is that myth that we have to be the ones that care for everyone. We have to be the ones, and I am not a mother, but I'm very maternal at work. So leaving my people was really hard on me at the end of 2021 because I felt like I was abandoning them. It was not my choice. It was not my whatever, but it's what kept me and has in the past kept me in jobs that I should not have stayed in. But what's going to happen if I go? It's like, you know what? They're all smart people. They will figure it out. But it's, we feel that that we're holding the world together. And if we stop, everything's just going to fall apart. And, that's an unfair burden for anyone.
Well, and what I've realized, it's the fear that stops us that really, once you decide to take that step, you realize it doesn't fall apart.
No.
It actually falls together.
It was so funny because I really was like, I wasn't really thinking about it. And I started doing this freelance gig and I'm like, I'm kind of liking this. I'm kind of liking, and for anyone that hears this that used to work for me, I love being a boss. Like I love having people. I've mentored so many young people. I love that. Man, it's nice not having to deal with anyone but yourself, where it's just, I have to do my work and deal with what I need to do and take care of the teams that I'm working with. But, it's, you almost don't, and I don't want to equate the work world with terrible things that people go through with bad relationships in their life. Sure. But it feels when you leave a situation that you probably shouldn't be in, it feels a little bit like that. Like you don't realize what it was until you get out of it. And you're like, why was I why was I putting myself through that?
Yeah, it's no different than like a bad marriage. Your
Yep.
employer, I always tell people we work things out and we act it out through our money, through our
Yep.
health, and through our relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationships is not just personal relationships, it's relationships with your family, it's
Yep.
relationships with your employers. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're the same bird in all those places,
Yep.
right? And so when you start
Absolutely.
to see and turn on this other part where you're kind of going, I kind of like having that kind of sense of freedom. Like Meg, if I were, and you and I have not talked about this, but it just dawned on me going, you don't have children. Like,
Mm-mm.
of course that would be the same at work. Like not having that responsibility there too is
Yeah.
also like, oh, I'm embodying more of actually who I am.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah.
place where you just flourish and blossom without any blame, shame, guilt, or judgment.
Yeah.
Right?
And I also think that I am lucky in that it's this time in the world where
Mm-hmm.
you see, every day you go to your LinkedIn feed, if you do that, and you see the people of changing jobs or whatever. Everyone is really, it feels there's so many like shifts that happen in the world, but this one feels actually real where people,
Mm-hmm.
for the last 2 years, and God bless all of you that were home with children for 2 years. Like, first of all, can't even wrap my head around it.
Been
But
there, done
we're
there.
so many particularly women went, okay, what am I doing here? Right?
Right.
Like, how I can't possibly just keep all of this stuff going. How
Right.
do I make this right? And so I'm feeling just so grateful that I
Mhm.
have the opportunity to do this, but I also can do this because I've been working really hard for 30 years.
Right, right.
We
Yeah, it just didn't come to you. Right.
yes, yeah. Yeah.
Well, and you said earlier about like kind of felt like irresponsible not working.
Yeah.
I always talk about these limiting beliefs that we have. So
Yeah.
depending on the communities you grew up in and the households you grew up in, and we've always talked about the fact that, you grew up in Wisconsin, Midwest,
Mhm.
homegrown, even and German on top of that, right? I'm a little
Yeah.
German as well. Like you work hard
Yeah.
and you don't not do that. And
Well,
it's
yeah.
this hard wiring that even if your parents didn't do it, generations before you did it, and it's locked and loaded into our amygdalas.
Yeah. And I'm going home this weekend to see my parents and some family friends. And I'm like, when they say, what are you doing for work? I don't even know what I'm going to answer. And so I'm like, well, I'm sort of doing some freelancing and consulting and whatever. Like, it sounds like I'm not doing anything, and I really am. And so, but I'm kind of, I really like a plan. I'm a
Mhm.
project manager. I'm a
Right,
operations person. I like a plan. I like
right,
checking things off the list.
right.
But for the very maybe first time ever, from a work perspective, I'm kind of excited. I don't know what kinds of projects I'm going to
Yep,
uncover. And it's
yep.
through having. It's amazing though what you uncover by just having conversations with people. What challenges are you having?
Right.
And let's talk about what we can do to sort of make your work life work better for you. What can we do to smooth that out so that we can make better workplaces for people?
Well, and one of the things that you told me the other day was like you naturally when you started doing this new gig and then you started to like almost overcommit and overdo in the new job,
Oh yeah.
right? Because literally the cells in your physical body are sitting
Hmm.
there like, oh, this is what I do. And then you're like, oh, I don't have to follow up with
No.
those. I don't have to do that. And you were like a giddy little schoolgirl.
Oh
You're
my
like,
gosh. So if I was like, oh, that's not my role, someone else is going to take care of that. That's delightful. Wait, I'm maxed out at 40 hours a week? Okay,
right,
and so those are, but at first it's weird. And
totally.
because I worked through the end of 2021 and was getting all sorts of stuff together. It was crazy. And then I did basically nothing for a month. Also, just delightful. And that's
Right.
another Julie thing. I said to you, I can't remember, probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me that I can't like find a job while I have a job. I always like I took a break and then there's this. And you said, oh, sometimes people just do that. Poor
Right.
James was like, don't tell her
But we
that.
don't give ourselves permission to that because we
Yep.
have this perception of the way it's supposed to go.
Yep.
And I find that people come to me for permission to do exactly what they want to do.
Yep.
And like the craziest idea that they have, Like I had a family come to me last year and they're just like, we thought moving to the burbs would satisfy our itch, that we'd be more in nature. And like, yeah, no, we got to go live in the mountains.
Yeah.
And we have family that's telling us, your kids are young, you got to move. Like, I ain't doing that. And I'm just like, okay, so why are you calling me? They're like, you just have to tell us that we're okay that we do it. I'm like, okay, like you're okay if you do it. And they're going, we knew you'd say that. And I'm like, well, would you like to know how?
Okay.
Like,
yeah. Do you want to actually know how to make this work, or yeah?
Right. But it's like we have been so trained that there are answers outside of ourselves that are more powerful than the answers we know from within.
Yep.
And we don't even know how to recognize it. So like when you were saying earlier about how like excited you were and stuff like that, you're like, oh, I always tell people like, well, which one makes you giggle more? And like, did my financial planner just say which one? Well, which one is more fiscally prudent? I'm like, I didn't ask you that question.
Yeah.
I asked you which one makes you giggle more. And the reason I do that is because that then actually creates more money to you, because Einstein proved it. Everything is energy, including your money.
Mm-hmm.
And you will attract the money you desire when your heart is happy.
Yep.
If you hate your job, you hate your boss, you hate your commute, that's going to be reflective in the money flow to you.
Yep.
You're going to shut off the spigot.
And I don't think that people understand how much that affects the rest of their life. Like, I really think that for years, you know, I don't think I realized how much it was affecting my husband, how unhappy I was. And, you know, that's not because I thought I was sort of keeping it together. I mean, I wasn't, clearly.
Except the people see us in our houses.
and it was hard on him to see me suffer and feel like he couldn't do anything, you know. And there's a difference between everyone has hard days of work and everyone has things. But I mean, and I have had many very successful jobs for many years.
Right.
But, and I never, you know, I never had a calling. Like what you do is a calling, right? This is a calling. I have friends that are nurses. That is a calling.
Yeah.
I've always just been, you know, whatever. But
I'm the operations girl.
But
that's your calling.
That's my calling. But I think that you need to do work that you find important, because if it doesn't matter, if it doesn't matter to you,
right,
it can't possibly benefit you. It just can't.
Right.
Like, it's soul sucking, and you
hit a glass ceiling.
Yeah.
That's what happens. And then
Absolutely.
if you stay in that job because the money's predictable and you understand it, all that happens is disease is created in your body.
Yep.
And the key is how do you continue to flourish in your, you know, easy to do in your 20s and your 30s, and you're bouncing around, you're cute, a little bit more challenging in your 40s. By the time you're in your 50s,
yeah,
you really can't put up with any shit anymore.
Yeah.
You're just kind of like, can't do it.
Yes.
Because what do you treasure more? And it's about, and, you know, it's an exchange. You know, I had one woman who called me at 56 years old. She goes, Julie, I'm retiring this year. I'm like, really? How's that? She goes, well, you're going to tell me how much I need to make per year, and I'm going to go find a job that just makes me laugh all day long. We figured out she needed $27,000 a year between now and 65. And she owns a dog walking business now, and she kennels dogs, and she loves dogs. I would never in a million years do that. But she's geeking out about it, and she's totally expanding now in her late 50s, and she's having the time of her life. And this is after her husband died of a brain tumor, and she's single again, and they were high school sweethearts, and they never had kids. Like, and she's happy.
Yeah.
She's so happy because these dogs are like her babies, you know? So you can do everything and anything that you choose. You just have to give yourself permission to do that.
Yes.
And to your point, like sometimes you have to create the space. You know, for you, it was take January off and figure it out. And be like, why is it not okay that we create this space for ourselves and go, I'm just going to do it. And I'm going to trust that something's going to fall in alignment.
And I think that it's especially, you know, you talked about in your 30s and your 40s, and now that I'm in my 50s, for a while I thought, okay, I can do this. I can just hold on for like 10 more years. And then I'm like, and my cousin said, we were talking about work, and she said, how much longer do you have to work? And I said, 10 to 15. And she's like, Meg, You have to do something else. Like, clearly you cannot do something you don't like for 10 or 15 more years. And I was like, oh yeah, and
Yeah.
but it's hard. And I think people don't step back and look at it.
No.
Everyone is so busy. There's the
Right.
day to day, and you're working, and then you're picking up your children, you're doing all these things, and you're involved in all these things. You don't have time to sit down and go, what? This is crazy.
Right.
And man, the time goes so fast. It doesn't, and I'm not advocating that everyone go out there and quit their jobs, but like, you do have to spend time figuring out what it is that's important to you and what you want to do and what you want to be. Otherwise, you said it manifests itself in not pleasant ways.
Crazy forms, right? And
Yeah.
so you already know what those bugaboos are, right? You
Yeah.
already know where you're like nails on a
Mhm.
chalkboard. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
like I can't do that anymore.
Yep.
Listen to that. And you know what? We could certainly, there are plenty of problems going on in the world right now.
Yep.
Plenty.
Yes.
But we have to focus on the dream of what we want to create.
Yep.
And that's why I asked Meg to come on today, because I was like, hey, what do you think about us talking like two ladies today?
And I was
And
like, oh,
but and it's about the fact that when you realize that, okay, if I do start to focus on what I want to create in my life as opposed to the pile of crap that I might be in,
yep.
or even the thing, maybe it's not a big pile of poop, maybe it's just like this constant irritant. It's like a chronic disease, right?
Yep.
Like literally, if you have a constant irritant, guess what? You're going to create a chronic disease.
Yep.
Like, this is what I see. We act it out through our health or our wealth. I see it all the time.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so we have to, however you create that space for yourself. I think a lot of people were jarred when the pandemic hit,
Oh,
because all of a sudden you're like, why does this scary quarantine kind of feel good?
yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people, and that's why a lot of employers today are going, well, we're not going to go back to the way we were working before.
Yep.
We're going to have shared office space, and you're not going to have to do that long commute. And so this is about everybody choosing to dream the new dream.
Mm-hmm.
And Meg, I would argue that you're just starting that dream, right? Like, I would argue that you're now going, you stuck your toe in the water a few years ago after 11
Mm-hmm.
years at your one
I did.
company. And then
I
you're
did.
like, I'm ready for both feet in the pond now. Let's do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And I think that you are so close to like feeling like, oh my God, my soul is being fed on a level that I never thought I could feel this happiness. And it's
Yeah.
going to come through. So one of the things that, I know my role will be moving forward is pressing you on like the parts of the jobs that you've had, like that you've loved,
Yep.
and how to now manifest that with the freedom of being the independent contractor,
Mm-hmm.
and
Exactly.
keeping that giggle alive. So as you age and as you look towards retirement, that you're happy all along. Because no matter where your starting point is,
Yep.
the goal is to create happiness right now, because now is all you have,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. And you want it to be, I want to be able to retire in 10 years, but I want to not want to,
Right.
I don't want it to be this clock that you're ticking down to, because that's a long
Right.
time.
Like,
Yeah. I don't want to just be, treading water for the next 10 years. So this is, I think, because of the way things are in the world right now, it's a great opportunity to do this. There's a lot of people that feel the way that I do now. There's a ton of people that are saying, this
right.
is not how I want to work anymore. And it'll be really interesting to see what the world looks like in a couple of years.
Now,
Businesses are struggling with it.
do you think you would have gotten here if your company wasn't making significant changes that you were last at?
I would have hoped so. I mean, I always knew that that was not the last job I was ever going to have. Clearly,
Right.
I mean, I knew that that was not.
Yeah,
Had
you
no
said it to me
intention
the
of.
minute you took it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was thinking that there would perhaps be other opportunities there. But I also, I never wanted to work from home. I really love being around people, and I was just living my best life at home.
Yeah.
I have always worked a lot. I have never just been the 40-hour a week girl.
Right.
And I could, actually work out in the morning and then, be at my
Great.
desk 30 minutes later and do some laundry in the middle of the day. And then, so for me, I certainly have friends who are dying to get out of the house. But I mean, for me, that opened up once I had that flexibility, I didn't have any intention of giving it back.
Nope.
And that is what a lot of people feel. Like, now I've figured out how to make this work. I've figured out how
Right.
to balance in this way. I don't want to go back to, being in an office and having to commute and doing all of those things. I do think that, for a lot of, I think if I had a full-time job, I think hybrid is ideal because it's
Right.
still the collaboration, whatever. But
Absolutely.
I'm hoping that the companies that will be successful are the ones that have figured out that good employees will set their own parameters,
Yep.
and that if given the freedom to do it the right way, they will be more productive.
Yeah.
So we'll
And
see.
and we didn't plan this one, and by all means, you could say I'm not going to answer this, but um, so all along this journey, you think you were financially perfect?
Oh God, no.
That's exactly what I wanted you to tell everybody.
Oh geez. So when I first met Julie,
Because if I could tell you,
yeah,
I want to say this to people. You're all sitting there going, "Oh, well, she works with a financial planner, and I don't work with a financial planner, and I'm not positioned that way." And da-da-da. Whatever story you're
yeah,
telling yourself as you're hearing Meg talk,
yes.
I want you to hear that it was not a perfect road.
Oh my goodness, no. And I mean, so I was in my probably late 20s, and
Hmm.
and it's whenever I've been thinking about aging a lot as I'm in my 50s, but I always had worked with a lot of young people, and whenever they
Yeah.
turn 30, they're like, "Oh, 30." I'm like, "No. 30 is so much better. You make so much more money in your 30s, right? You're so poor in your 20s. At least I was so poor. Most people are, right?"
Right.
And it was getting into be my late 20s. I'm like, I gotta kind of get this together, or I'm, never gonna figure it out. And the great thing about working with Julie is that we started small. It was like, okay, what can you do? And then we
Right.
built on it. So we also live a pretty uh uh modest life, I want to say. Like,
Hmm.
we both have good jobs, we do perfectly well, but I'm
Right.
not living in a mansion over here in Portage Park. But no, I mean, there has been a lot of ups and downs along the way, but I can't remember what year it was, I said I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is I got some stock option money at work, and the bad news is I've been lying to you about what my credit card debt has been for like a decade. So here you go. We're gonna take care of that. But yeah, I mean, we all do it, but I think that I've always been motivated by the money.
Right.
There's no question about it, right? Like,
Yeah.
I want to, I've always said, I want to get the house paid off so that I don't have to worry about it, so that we can put more into retirement. Like, it's all of those things. And we're still being responsible about the money. Julie and I have a
Right.
plan where I put money away every week and she
Right.
takes it from me every month. And, you have to keep those things in mind. I'm paying my portion of the mortgage and the bills and all of those things. But it has not been, I have had good jobs. I've never made an enormous amount of money. I
Right.
work in marketing and advertising, right?
Yeah, you're income affluent.
I make a good living, but I'm certainly not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. So I want people to take away, it's like, well, she doesn't have children, so she can just, do whatever she wants all the time. But
Yeah.
it helps. It makes us wealthier. But I think for those of you who have children, you almost have more of an obligation to make sure that your work life works for you, that you
Right.
give the example to those kids that it doesn't have to be where you've given your whole life over to it.
Right.
And it's tough to take yourself out of it. I mean, I am so grateful that I had severance to sit down and just be like, what do I want to do? That was a gift. It was
Yeah.
upsetting when it happened,
Right.
but that was a gift. And so, I mean, who knows what a year from now I might be like, I found this fantastic thing and I'm going to do it. But for the moment, I'm excited to see what the future
Yeah.
holds.
Well, and what I'd like to share with people is that, as I work with clients, what's important to me is that no matter what life menu presents itself, that you're nimble enough to move
Yeah.
with whatever. So whether you choose to move into another corporate job or you decide to keep expanding, being an independent contractor, you can do either or. And so I always talk about that we need to create financial space for that.
Yep.
And when it comes to debt, debt is the lead balloon that gives you less choices.
Yes.
Temporarily, you get more choices because you're spending, but usually that spending is about emotionally satisfying something inside of yourself
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to a real true need. Like I just did a video the other day on go on a spending fast. And they're like, or a financial
What?
fast. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Like literally take a week or even if it's just a couple days or a month, whatever you feel, fast. Just like intermittent fasting on your food. Like only spend money on what you need, like what you
Mm-hmm.
actually physically need. You are going to wake up and have awareness. No different than when the quarantine hit. Wow, did everybody have more of awareness of where their money was going? Because it's been stockpiling in savings accounts for people.
Yeah.
Because they're like, and now we're being put in a position where we can choose more intentionally. Like, do I still want that or don't I still want that? I've heard more people say, oh my God, can you believe it just cost me $180 for two of us to go to dinner?
Yeah.
And it's like, we're recognizing going, do I actually want to do that anymore? Or would I rather use that money to go travel?
Yep.
Or would I rather retire a couple years early? Or, like, but it's about choosing your life.
Yeah.
And if you gridlock yourself with so much debt, you've given away choices.
The highest credit card debt I had was the year that I made the most money I ever made. Those two things happened at the same time, which is insane, right? And so and it'd been building and building and building, but that is for something else. But just not having that burden, I can't even. James and I talk about it. Like I can't. It was first of all, it's a weight on you. You get the bill, and especially when you're younger, you're like, how am I gonna make
Right.
this happen? But I really have to do X, and so I want to not go out with my friends, and
Or
so
I
I'm
do it
gonna.
with my bonus, and then your bonus comes. It's not actually your bonus,
Yes.
and then the employer's the jerk, and it's like, well, no, you spent money you really actually didn't have. So are they
Yes.
a jerk? Maybe, but they're a compounded jerk
Yep.
because you spent money before you had it,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I just want people to come from a place of empowerment to like really just choose your life,
Yep.
choose your financial life, choose what is going to make you happy. And
Absolutely.
I don't know anyone that creates debt that's actually happy,
Oh.
but people are ecstatic the day they pay off their house, pay
Mm-hmm.
off their car, pay off their
Yep.
student loans, pay off their more,
Oh.
everything, credit cards. Those are happy days for people. So if
Yeah.
they're happy days when they're paid off, let's not try to recreate them,
Oh.
and
Exactly.
be mindful.
Exactly. To go right back
Meg,
there, but yeah.
any last parting words for anyone watching?
No. It was lovely to talk to you. Thank you for
Thanks, Holly.
having me. I hope that there's some benefit in there, but
Well, thank you for being a life that thrives. And tell James, thanks for sharing you today.
I will. I will. I will.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, everybody. And don't forget, hit that subscribe, like, and notification bell because I'm going to help you guys get to a place that you love in your life. And if you go to juliemurphy.com, I am going to do group coaching starting this summer. So if you go there, sign on my email list, you'll know when that starts. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.